On April 18th, 12 football clubs made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the world of the most popular sport on the planet. They plan to set up a breakaway closed league separate from existing national and European competitions. This proposed league, resembling those in North America, went against the spirit and long-standing traditions of European football, and the outrage at this move was swift, angry, and almost universal. Seeing the anger of their fans, leagues, and employees, most clubs had withdrawn their interest within days of the announcement. It seems like fans' worst fears had been averted. Though the Super League appears now to be dead, the problems that led to its emergence, such as a disconnect with fans and out-of-control spending, remain unaddressed. In this video, we will look at how we can fix European club football, make the game healthier and more prosperous, and hopefully prevent a Super League from ever happening. For this video, I will not be focusing on the overall governance of the sport of football. While the corruption and politics of organizations such as UEFA and FIFA contributed to this mess, to cover the subject properly would require its own video. I will also not get into the specifics of the new Champions League format. Personally, I think the new Swiss model has many problems. However, I believe the fact that it is going ahead is a result of the more fundamental issues I aim to address in this video. The Super League was a completely wrong-headed proposal that went against the spirit of fair competition. It did seek, however, to address some of the long-standing and widely recognized problems that currently exist in European football, albeit in a completely counterproductive way. One of the problems the Super League was looking to address was the out-of-control spending in European football. Currently, with weak financial fair play rules, there is little incentive for clubs to reduce spending, as that theoretically means having a weaker squad with a reduced chance of winning. Many of the Super League members are heavily in debt, and part of the Super League proposal involved a salary cap amongst its members. Another problem in European football is the growing gap between the haves and have-nots. If we look at the clubs that qualified for the group stage of the Champions League in 2021, the most valuable squad, Manchester City's, is worth $1.13 billion, whereas the least valuable squad of Ferencváros was only worth $34.38 million. This gap in spending results in a tournament that is less competitive, more predictable, and ultimately less entertaining. This was another issue the Super League made a token effort to address with more equitable revenue sharing, though only amongst its members. The last problem I see is the growing disconnect between owners and fans. I don't want to romanticize the past and pretend avarice didn't exist back then. However, with the growing amount of money involved, we are seeing more people attracted to the sport for the wrong reasons, perceiving clubs as investment vehicles instead of community assets. Fans are seen and treated as customers rather than stakeholders. The fact that such a proposal that goes against the essence of football and meritocratic competition was able to get so far speaks volumes as to how great this disconnect has grown. How can we go about solving these problems and bring European football to a healthier place? Let's look at overspending first. The Super League proposed a salary cap amongst its teams as a way of controlling costs. Most North American leagues have some form of salary cap, meaning that teams can only spend a certain amount on players and receive severe sanctions if they exceed this limit. There are problems, however, with implementing a salary cap in European football. Some experts believe such a cap would violate European competition laws, though some European leagues in cricket have already implemented a wage cap. In addition, European courts have allowed financial fair play to exist, which is already a form of cost capping. It's unclear whether European courts would strike down a hard salary cap. However, I believe the bigger issue with a hard spending cap is the fact that you would need ones for both domestic leagues and Europe. These would inevitably be different and irreconcilable. I believe a soft cap or luxury tax is a better option. The president of UEFA, Alexander Seferin, seems to agree. Both the NBA and Major League Baseball have some form of luxury tax. In a luxury tax system, there is a spending threshold which is tied to league revenues. If clubs choose to exceed the spending threshold, they are heavily taxed. This discourages clubs from spending excessively over the limit. The big advantage of a luxury tax system is that it is easier to implement. Domestic leagues and UEFA could set spending thresholds that are different, and clubs would pay each luxury tax separately. Let's imagine a scenario where the Premier League and Champions Leagues implement luxury taxes of 25% at £100 million and £80 million thresholds respectively. Manchester United, with a wage bill of £178 million this season, would have spent $44 million total in luxury taxes under this scenario, $19.5 million going to the Premier League and $23.5 million going to UEFA. A luxury tax, in addition to controlling costs, could help address the inequality in football. The funds raised from the luxury tax could go towards subsidizing smaller clubs in the competition or be distributed to feeder leagues through solidarity payments. In addition, it can be considered somewhat fairer than financial fair play, which entrenches the established elite. As an owner, you are free to spend more, but you will pay heavily for it. However, a luxury tax alone will not be enough to mitigate the disparity between clubs from the Big Five leagues and the rest. Another way to reduce the disparity in European football is to merge smaller leagues together. Now, this might sound crazy, as it suggests that creating mini super leagues would discourage the establishment of a super league. However, one of the main complaints of the Super League teams was the lack of meaningful games in the Champions League, especially in the early stages of the competition. Their solution to this was to have more matches between big clubs from big leagues. Another, and I will argue better way to solve this problem, is to make the teams from smaller leagues more competitive. One way of doing this that has been proposed since the early 2000s is to merge some of the smaller leagues into bigger and therefore more competitive leagues. The reason that so many of the big clubs hail from England, Germany, Italy, Spain, and France is geography, and not because the fans of clubs in Scotland, the Netherlands, or Greece are any less passionate. Look at the populations of the countries of the Big Five leagues. They all have more than 45 million people. Now compare that with the populations of Scotland, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Greece, Romania, and the former Yugoslavia, all countries that have had European Cup finalists in the past. Clubs like Celtic, Panathinaikos, and Red Star Belgrade have had the bad luck of being located in nations with small populations, meaning their domestic leagues have been unable to garner lucrative TV contracts, which hurts those clubs. Merging the top divisions of several of these countries would create a larger audience for more lucrative TV deals. It would give clubs from these countries more influence and reduce the disparity between them and the top 5 leagues. Deloitte estimates that a merged Belgium-Dutch league could generate $476 million per year in marketing and television rights deals. I could imagine a scenario with 4 or 5 of these merged leagues with populations ideally close to 45 million, the current population of Spain. There are definitely challenges with creating these merged leagues, most notably how relegation and promotion should be handled, as well as the issue of European rankings. There is also the issue of what happens to the domestic leagues of these merged leagues, as their status will be diminished, though some leagues such as the Belgian Pro Division realize that this is happening anyway with the status quo, and a merged league is probably a better option. Now, our proposed solutions so far have addressed the problems of overspending and inequality, but we haven't addressed the increasing disconnect between fans and owners. As a North American outsider, I think what makes football so special compared to other sports is the undeniable passion that comes from the sense of ownership fans have. They are not merely spectators or customers of the club, they are the club. I believe this adds tremendous value. The owners of Super League clubs profited from this intimate relationship but didn't realize their actions would have killed the golden goose. The attempted Super League breakaway demonstrates to me that verbal promises of responsibility to fans is not enough. There needs to be some form of structural mechanism to ensure that owners indeed act as stewards of their clubs, not as dictators. Interestingly enough, there were no German clubs among the Super League teams, as both Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund rejected these overtures. This was no accident. German clubs are, with a few exceptions, majority owned by fans under the 50+1 rule. This means critical club decisions such as ticket prices or which competitions the club should participate in require the approval of fans. Though majority fan ownership seems appealing, it's hard to see how we can get from here to there. Majority fan ownership would require club owners to sell shares to fans or dilute their shares, neither of which seem easy or appealing. It should be noted that before 1998, clubs in Germany were 100% fan-owned. 50+1 is in fact a loosening of corporate ownership rules. It's hard to see the dynamic going in the reverse direction, though after this debacle, perhaps such harsh measures are what they deserve. In addition, fan ownership is not a panacea. Barcelona and Real Madrid are both 100% owned by fans, yet as of the making of this video, they still have not formally dropped their intention of joining the Super League. What might be easier to implement and perhaps more effective is a set of rules that requires owners and club presidents to get majority season holder approval for key decisions. This could be done through direct vote or the election of a council of elected season ticket holders. Similar structures that limit the power of owners or club presidents already exist in many clubs around the world. As I witnessed thousands of officials, coaches, players, and fans denounce the Super League, I was left with this feeling that this might be the enough moment for football. Enough with price gouging. Enough with the growing gap between the haves and have-nots. Enough with investors treating the game like a commodity. Though I'm somewhat troubled that this is the straw that broke the camel's back and not thousands of migrant workers dying in Qatar, I'm glad that it has finally happened. Here is my message to those who want to reform the beautiful game for the better. The iron is hot. Now is the time to strike. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. What do you think about these ideas for fixing European football? Let me know in the comments below. One thing I found difficult for this project was getting good data for analyzing how such policy ideas would look if implemented. I think such information and analysis could advance the discussion. If you have any suggestions on how to do this, you can email me at policythwonk@gmail.com.